Hi everyone, and welcome back to episode 5 of Thursday Night Lives. First off, I want to thank everyone who has gone over to my Instagram to follow me over there. I've also got the TV working tonight now. So I want to thank everyone who went over to Instagram and followed me over there. I'm currently on 190 something followers over there now, which is a massive increase. So I'm very, very grateful for everyone who took the time out and do that, and I'm grateful for the support. So cheers everyone. Secondly, thank you for coming. I'm just going to crack on like this is just a normal video, because it doesn't tell me if people are here or not, so I don't know. So I'm just going to crack on. If you missed any part, then you're not going to hear this anyway, but this will be going into my video stream afterwards, as always. So if you're not watching it now, which you're probably not, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but anyway, go and check it out. So tonight I'm going to be talking about MOTs. If any of you follow me over on TikTok, then you would see that there was a bit of a discussion over MOTs recently, and I've seen a few other discussions going around this subject as well. So I thought maybe I'll come and clear some things up for you as best as I can. So just as a full disclosure, I'm not actually an MOT tester, although I have been around MOTs and in the trade for quite some time. So I have a little bit of I think obviously first thing to first is, who is an MOT for? Generally speaking, probably everyone who's listening to this. I think it's if your car is over 72 years old, it gets heritage status and it no longer needs an MOT, but it's encouraged to keep it up to a roadworthy standard. Obviously that applies, so if the police officer sees that your car is unsafe, even if it's MOT exempt, you can still be penalised for that, as far as I'm aware. That moves on to now, that is, what is an MOT? Now, I think this is the bit where most people get confused. So it is a visual health and safety check, an emissions check of your vehicle. No, Rob, not MOT tests. So everyone, Rob has just joined the chat. Distracts me every time. Yeah, so it is Rob might be able to correct me with this. It is a visual health and safety check, an emissions check of your vehicle. And I think the best way to describe that is a health and safety assessment of a building or a room in that terms. So what it's doing is that tester will be looking at your vehicle to see if it is safe, or if it poses a health or safety risk to the environment, which is becoming quite recent years, and obviously to general public. Like one of the examples, if a bumper is cracked and it has sharp or spiky edges, I think the wording is, or something like that, and it could cause harm to a pedestrian, it can fail an MOT. So it is to ensure your vehicle meets minimum standards to UK law, which might I add is pretty low. Yes, so that is the point I'm getting to. So it's just a check. I mean, yeah, like it's there to make sure your car is safe, but we're going to come to that. so it is literally just a physical inspection at that point. So what the MOT tester needs to do is look at your car and says, is that safe? And does that pose a health or safety risk to road users, the environment, or pedestrians? If the answer is no, then it passes. It's as simple as that. So, but one way of looking at this is that now this is just a visual inspection. So the tester isn't actually allowed to remove anything, or in most cases it's generally a hands-off experience. A lot of them now have shaker plates, so they can see the plate, they don't have to lever on it, although obviously in some cases they do, and just things like that. So it's generally speaking quite a hands-off experience. So a shock absorber, for instance, that can be leaking for 4 years, say, and they'll have an advisory every year. shock absorber leaking, shock absorber leaking, shock absorber leaking, but it's not a fail, it's just an advisory. And then it stops leaking, or it's signs of leaking. You can't prove it's leaking, so it just looks like it's leaking. So yeah, so signs of leaking. In the 5th year, there won't be any signs of leaking because there's no fluid left in it. And then it fails. It doesn't fail, it passes, even though that shock absorber is knackered, it's no good. So that's that's what it is. So does it pose a risk? As far as I can see, no, it doesn't. Rob is just letting us know. So Rob is a Tech Automotive. If you don't follow him, go over and give him a follow. But he's actually an MOT tester, and he's just giving me some information in the comments here. This is a one-man test lane is known as an ATL, which is an auto test lane. Rob, I've only seen one test center where there hasn't been 2 mechanics. No, where there has been 2 mechanics. Is ATL kind of the standard? So yeah, so as I say, then that shock absorber has failed, but it doesn't pose, you can't see, you can't test the vehicle, so as far as he pose a health or safety risk to the general public, the environment, or another road user. So that something else to consider is that he is just looking at it, or she, that the MOT tester is just looking at it as it sits there. So when he looks at, say, a shock absorber, and he says that shock absorber currently poses no risk to the general public, the another road user, or the environment, so it's fine. But in his head, he also might be saying that bush is on its way out in 6 months' time, that isn't going to be roadworthy. But it's how it stands at the time. So he's not, sorry, I keep saying he, but I mean the tester is testing the current state of the vehicle, if it currently poses a safety risk. And if it doesn't, if it doesn't, but it shows signs that it will soon, I think there's a time period, Bob, you might know this a little bit better, there's a time frame in which you can appeal. So if it is actually, if it's unsafe within the 6-month period or something like that, then you've done it wrong. Sorry. So Rob's giving us some more information here. The test center I work, 1 second. Sorry. The test center I work at is a 2-man test lane, which is why we have an apprentice do the 2nd-man things. But it all depends on how much your company wants to spend on equipment. 3 months for corrosion. It is 3 months, is that okay? Is it like... So the apprentice do you have to jack it up for the check play? Because the only one I seen it in before was it had a pit. And the man would on the pit, and the apprentice would jack it up so he can check for play in the joints. So what was just told us here, so if you've got... You're checking to see if corrosion would cause an issue within 3 months. If that corrosion would cause an issue outside of that 3 months period. So if he looks at it and says, right, there's corrosion there, that's going to rot through, but it's probably going to take another 8 months, then it would be a pass and advise. Is that right, Rob? So the discussion that was held over on TikTok recently was, it was around corrosion. Yeah, we use qualified people to do the testing, but the apprentice will turn the wheels out and apply the brake pedal and shake the steering, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's what he was doing in the pit. Yeah, okay. Where was I? So we've got who is it for and why we have it. So we have it essentially because it's an illegal requirement, but what the test is actually looking for is that your vehicle is safe at that point in time. He could look at it and say that's currently safe, but when he drives down the road, so I've had it with advisories where somebody's advised the tyre, the MOT tester advised the tyre, and he said, look, that tyre is an advisory, it's not technically a fail, but by the time you get the car back to the customer, it would have failed. So he can't fail it, but he knows that as soon as it goes back out on the road, it's going to be unsafe. And that's just one of those things. So when we want something a bit more... Hi Amstrom, how's it going? Finger and thumb pressure to anything you are not sure about. And if it goes through, fill. If not, pass and advise. So you are still allowed to apply pressure. I was recently informed that you're not actually allowed to touch it. Oh, actually, I think I was told you're not allowed to touch it unless it was questionable. So if it was just corrosion and it looked solid, then you can't touch it. But if you're like, that doesn't look so solid to me, then you can. So Rob has said here, because I know you can't see these in the videos after, but he said you're not allowed to use a tool or a hammer anymore to protrude. But you used to, didn't you used to be able to get a corrosion tool and it would come on the Vosa boards? Although Vosa doesn't technically exist anymore. Technically, I don't think it actually does it? But back to the subject. So if you want to know if your vehicle is going to be safe in a year's time, because that will tell you that your vehicle is currently safe and it's currently roadworthy. I've had MOTs where the MOT tester has backed it off, path perfectly fine, no advisory, so he backed it off the ramp, hit the rolling road and popped 2 springs on the back. Unfortunately, he had to have a conversation with the customer over that, not me. Well, fortunately for him. Unfortunately for him, fortunately for me. Yeah, but the point is, the MOT test only tells if you want more information on how safe your vehicle is. Whereas if I come out into the service, I would do more vigorous tests where they're just shaking the steering here. I would pry on it with a pry bar, or I would do various different things. And as part of the service, there'd be a road test, which an MOT tester is not allowed to do. So yeah, if you want to know the long-term safety and the long-term condition of your vehicle, you want to have a service. Something else to bear in mind is that certain components aren't checked. So you could go to an MOT with a blown up turbo, and as long as it's not smoking and it passed the emission tests, then your car, which is very unsafe to drive, passes an MOT. So it is a very bare minimum on what the government says is safe and healthy for everyone around you. But for a more in-depth idea of the condition of your vehicle, you need to go and have a service. Basically, that is basically it. I've had so Rob's just commented here now. He's saying himself that he's backed a vehicle. I said, hang on, I've popped brake pipes on the rolling road before. So he's done the brake test as an MOT, and the brake pipes have popped or burst in various ways. So there's nothing you can do about that. He could have just passed them perfectly fine 5 minutes ago, but these things happen. So there's just something for you to be aware of. If your car breaks 2 months after having an MOT, it's not necessarily MOT's fault. And it's not something that they have neglected to see, it's just something that they don't pick up on. A lot of the times you'll have like plastic. I had a customer, she passed her MOT, and then I'll say about 8-9 months later, she messaged me saying there's a banging noise. And what was her subframe was on a Nissan Qashqai. Her subframe was knocking from where the bushes in the subframe went. And she was fuming about it because she's like, I had the MOT 9 months ago and the thing was picked up. But the issue was the Qashqai has these plastic sheets, covers belly pans that run sort of from the front to the middle, and then they've got some more that go all over the place on the back. But the bushes weren't visible. The MOT tester had no idea whatsoever the condition of the engine underneath that. That could have been pumping out a litre of oil whilst it was on the ramp, because that under tray would have caught it, he'd have no idea. So you can't say to the tester, he's not allowed to remove that under tray, or they're not allowed to remove that under tray. So it's not him, he or her, whatever it is. It's not the tester's fault. All he was doing was applying to the rules. If you had a service, that belly pan would have definitely come off and you would have been able to pick up on those. I have covered everything I want to for tonight, but I will, and I'll be taking suggestions for further lives or video topics that you want to discuss. If you are wanting to continue the conversation, I'm guessing it's only you and Rob and Anstrom. Are you still here? If you want to continue the conversation, I will be going over to my TikTok live now, and then we can nail it over there. All right, thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.